You know that feeling right before you fall asleep where you start doing the math?
Oh, yeah. The sleep math.
Right. You look at the clock and you think, okay, well, if I fall asleep right this exact second, I will get, exactly 6 hours and 14 minutes of sleep.
And then suddenly the math itself is the exact thing keeping you awake.
Exactly. You're lying there and you can practically hear the gears of tomorrow just grinding against the exhaustion of today. I mean, the clock is supposed to be this neutral tool, right, to help us organize our lives. But in that moment, it feels like a cage.
Yeah, we crave the structure of the clock, but we end up captured by it.
Huh.
And that feeling, that late night clock watching anxiety, is actually exactly what this fascinating collection of philosophical essays tries to cure.
It really is. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We're so glad you're here with us. The source material we're looking at today is this gorgeous, almost ancient feeling collection. It's made up of 7 essays and 1 poem.
And the central theme tying it all together is humanity's profound struggle to traverse its own inner desert to reach the infinite now.
The infinite now. It sounds so poetic, but it is deeply, deeply practical. Today's goal is to unpack this really transformative concept from the very first essay. It's known as ÂN-I DÂIM.
Right. Which translates roughly to the secret dwelling in the heart of time.
I love that phrasing. And we're going to explore how we can actually stop being prisoners of our clocks and our calendars and learn how to literally live in the exact physical moment we occupy.
Which is much harder than it sounds.
Oh, for sure.
To do that, the text starts with a pretty heavy diagnosis of the modern condition. Because, well, before we can reach this infinite now, we have to understand what's currently trapping us. The source makes this really powerful assertion that modern humans divide their lives between 2 heavy states of mind.
Right, the regrets of the past and the anxieties of the future.
Exactly. And we do all this while being caught in what the author calls the relentless gears of clocks and calendars.
It's such a visceral image, right? Like being ground up in a machine.
Yeah, and the core conflict here is that dividing time into segments like minutes, hours, weeks, that's just a convenience for the rational mind.
Because we need to know what time the train leaves or when a meeting starts.
Right. It's a tool. But the text argues that while this segmentation is convenient for the mind, it actually imprisons the soul in I think the phrase is narrow dungeon.
A narrow dungeon, wow.
Because the profound claim the author's making is that, quote, life is an indivisible whole and everything is hidden within a single second. So when we slice time up into these rigid, mechanical little blocks, we lose the wholeness of reality.
It makes me think of, imagine taking a beautiful, sweeping landscape painting, a masterpiece, right?
Okay, yeah.
And then drawing a strict, rigid black grid entirely over it. Like suddenly you can categorize it. You can say, oh, the tree is in square D4. It makes it really easy to manage, but you've completely destroyed the holistic beauty of the art.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Because the grid is just an overlay. It's not the painting itself.
But we treat it like it is. We point to our perfectly color-coded calendar apps and we think, look, I'm mastering my life. But really, we're just managing the grid. We aren't experiencing the painting at all.
And managing that grid is exhausting. But the expert promise here, what the text is offering, is that when you drop those ambitions and actually give the present moment its due, the ticking of the calendar falls silent. You step out of mechanical time and into what the author calls a divine manifestation renewed at every breath.
Renewed at every breath. Which leads right into that first couplet from the poem in the text. The author writes, "Neither am I within time, nor am I completely outside of it."
Yeah, that's a beautiful line.
But practically speaking, how does that work? Like, how can a person be neither in nor out of time?
Well, the distinction is between that mechanical grid-like time and experiential time. When you drop the regrets of yesterday and the panic about tomorrow, you stop being a slave to the clock.
You're still physically aging, though. Like, the seasons are still changing.
Exactly. You aren't literally outside the universe's progression, but you are no longer trapped within the mechanical ticking of it. You stop measuring your existence by the increments passing on the wall.
You stop staring at the grid.
Right. And for the soul that does this, the text says there is no longer a yesterday or a tomorrow. There's just an eternal expanse.
Okay, and I think this is where the text gets really challenging. If we accept that the clock on the wall isn't the real enemy, we have to look at what happens when we close our eyes.
Because the real prison isn't external.
Exactly. The real prison is in our heads. It's our own internal time travel.
Yeah, this is in the section titled "The Place Where Memory Dissolves." the silence within. The author pivots to show that we usually experience time not through actual clocks, but through the echoes within our own minds.
The echoes. And the examples the text gives are just so painfully relatable, like a single word someone said to you that just lingers inside for years.
Oh yeah, we all have those.
Right. Or a fear that casts the shadow of, what was the phrase? Days not yet born.
Days not yet born. It's such a striking way to describe anticipatory anxiety. You're letting something that doesn't even exist cast a shadow over the literal present moment.
The only moment that actually exists.
Exactly. And the consequence of this, as the text lays out, is this profound dislocation. A person physically exists in one place, like sitting in their living room, but mentally, they're living either inside a past hurt or among future possibilities that haven't even happened.
It's like, okay, you know when you're at your computer and you have like 100 tabs open on your web browser?
100 might be an understatement for me, but yeah.
Right. And suddenly you hear audio playing. You can hear the noise of your life happening. Maybe it's a stressful news clip, maybe it's an argument, but you have no idea which tab it's coming from.
That is exactly what it feels like.
You're physically sitting at the desk, but the noise in your head is from an argument you had in a tab you opened 5 years ago. Or, financial panic in a tab you're worried about opening next Tuesday.
And that scattered state is terribly destructive. The author explicitly says the heart becomes scattered, attention is fragmented, and the soul drifts completely away from its own center.
So, okay, let me ask you this. The text makes this sound so agonizing, and it is. So why do our minds just default to this mental time travel? Why can't we just close the tabs and stay in the physical room?
Well, if we look closely at the philosophy here, it's really the rational mind trying to do its job. Its job is to keep you safe. So it uses the echoes of the past to try and predict the future. It's a threat detection system.
Oh, so it thinks it's helping.
Right. It brings up that criticism from 5 years ago to protect you from making a mistake today. But the philosophical insight is that you cannot solve the soul's unrest with the rational mind's calculations.
Because you can't truly live in a projection.
Exactly. A projection has no actual substance. It's just a ghost.
Okay, so if the diagnosis is the scattered heart and these deafening echoes in the mind constantly trying to calculate our safety, how do we fix it? Because the text does offer a specific gateway back, right?
It does. The antidote the author provides is that true peace only begins when a person can, quote, quiet the inner crowd and return to the center of existence.
Quiet the inner crowd. I love that. And there's this powerful rule the text gives for why we have to do this. It says, truth always enters through the doorway of now.
The doorway of now. It's such a brilliant metaphor because you cannot call the past back and you cannot pull the future forward. They are totally inaccessible.
Right, you can't touch them.
Yeah. So a genuine connection with life is directly proportional to how much a person can truly touch the exact moment they're currently in.
There's another couplet from the poem that backs this up. The author writes, "The past was but a shadow, the future a delicate dream. Truth walked only within the moment the heart could truly feel."
And following that is this tragic warning. The one who constantly hurries toward another moment ends up missing their own life. If you are always rushing toward that delicate dream of the future, you aren't home when truth actually knocks on the doorway of now.
Okay, I have to push back on this a little bit, though.
Sure, go for it.
Because quieting the inner crowd sounds amazing if I'm on like a 2-week silent meditation retreat in the mountains.
Right.
But in my actual modern daily life, that inner crowd is my survival mechanism. It's the voice reminding me to prep for the meeting or, to pay my electricity bill. Right. If I stop planning for the future entirely just to stare at a wall waiting for truth to enter the doorway of now, my power is going to get shut off.
That is the ultimate question, isn't it? How does this survive contact with reality? But the author actually defines their terms very carefully to address this. The goal isn't to permanently lobotomize the rational mind or ignore the future.
Okay, good.
Remember the phrasing. Whenever a person frees themselves from ambitions and begins to give the present moment its due, the key is not being enslaved by those thoughts.
So it's not saying don't plan, it's saying use time to plan. But don't let time use you to panic.
That is a brilliant way to put it. You can absolutely write down a reminder to pay the electric bill. That's a brief, functional use of the mind as a tool. Right. But when you spend the next 3 hours sitting on the floor with your kids, while mentally agonizing over the concept of bills and spiraling into a fantasy of total financial ruin, that is when the inner crowd has enslaved you.
Ah, I see. You physically stayed in the room, but you've mentally left your kids to go sit in a nightmare.
Exactly. You're missing your own life for a delicate dream. Or a delicate nightmare, really.
So it's the difference between using the tool and letting the tool use you. If I write down the reminder, I'm just looking at the sheet music so I can learn the song. If I spend 3 hours agonizing, I'm just staring at the sheet music while the whole orchestra plays without me.
And you miss the music completely.
Man. Okay, so that brings us to what this actually looks like what it feels like when we manage to pull it off and step through that doorway of now. And the text shifts here from the theoretical to some really beautiful, grounded imagery.
It does. It says that when the soul ceases its constant rushing, it begins to hear the subtle voice of existence.
The subtle voice of existence. And the examples they give of this vastness, it's not like standing on top of Mount Everest. It's incredibly simple things.
Right.
The author mentions noticing the light falling upon a window, or a quietly sipped cup of tea, or just the traces that rain leaves upon the glass.
Because the realization here is that life is not just the sum of great events. It's not just graduations and weddings and big dramatic milestones. Life is actually the wholeness of these small manifestations silently passing by unnoticed.
And this circles us all the way back to our core concept, ÂN-I DÂIM, the secret dwelling in the heart of time. The text explicitly defines it for us here. It says ÂN-I DÂIM is not removing yourself from time. It is the ability to sense eternity within every moment.
To sense eternity within every moment. It's a fundamental shift in how we process reality. And the text wraps this section up by offering a totally new definition of maturity. It suggests that true maturity lies in ceasing to consume time and instead learning to entrust oneself to the flow of truth.
Okay, wait. Ceasing to consume time. I want to poke at that word a bit. Because thinking about those images, sipping tea, watching rain on the glass, I have to ask, is this philosophy just kind of like romanticizing boredom?
How do you mean?
Well, like if I'm sitting at a bus stop with nothing to do and I tell myself to notice the rain on the glass, is that just a coping mechanism because I'm understimulated? Like, does anything genuinely functionally shift in how a person perceives reality when they do this?
Oh, it absolutely functionally shifts.
Yeah.
In fact, it is the exact opposite of romanticized boredom.
Really?
Yeah, because think about what boredom actually is. Boredom is a product of the rational mind being denied its usual stimulation. Boredom is your mind screaming, I want to consume time. Give me a problem to solve. Give me a memory to analyze. Give me something to chew on.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the mind constantly wants to be calculating something.
Exactly. So when you entrust yourself to the flow of truth, you aren't trying to consume the moment anymore. You're deeply experiencing it. When you actively notice the light on the window, you are consciously redirecting your bandwidth away from that default mode of anxiety and time traveling.
You're closing all those extra browser tabs.
Yes. You are silencing the inner crowd. You are stepping out of the narrow dungeon of the clock and back into the indivisible whole. It is not boredom at all. It is absolute high-definition presence.
High-definition presence. Think about that. Think about the last conversation you had today. Were you actually truly listening to the person sitting right in front of you? Or were you silently arguing with the shadow of someone from yesterday?
Right. Were you experiencing high-definition presence, or were you just managing the grid?
It really forces an uncomfortable audit of where our attention actually goes every day.
It does. It really does.
So just to kind of map the journey we've taken through this incredible text today, we started in this suffocating dungeon of external clocks and calendars, right? Where our rational mind draws that rigid black grid over the beautiful painting of our lives.
And then we looked inward, realizing that the real prison is actually the echoes in our own minds, those lingering words of the past and the unborn days of the future that just scatter our hearts and keep us constantly calculating.
Right. And the way out, the only real way out, is through the doorway of now. By quieting that inner crowd, not by throwing away our calendars or ignoring our responsibilities, but by refusing to be enslaved by them.
Exactly. And when we stop trying to endlessly consume time, we can finally hear that subtle voice of existence in something as simple as a cup of tea.
We step into a 9J, the eternal expanse. It's such an incredible, deeply practical framework for looking at our days.
It really is.
And as we wrap up, there is one final, really provocative thought from the very end of our source material that we want to leave you with. The text mentions, almost casually in a note, that the next essay in this collection is titled, The Trial of Two Lines, Vertical Lightness, Horizontal tribulation.
Vertical lightness, horizontal tribulation.
Just think about the geometry of that phrase for a second. If our constant, exhausting rushing through the regrets of the past and the anxieties of the future is a horizontal tribulation like, we're just dragging ourselves back and forth along this flat, exhausting timeline.
Yeah.
Could touching the true present moment be the vertical lightness that lifts us out of the timeline entirely?
Wow.
So as you go about your day-to-day, looking at your clocks, listening to your inner crowd, ask yourself, what does your vertical escape route look like?
Something to really think about.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.